Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York on Nintendo Switch. Let's start with Eric's story. I think Eric's story is like the most boring one too, but it's what we started with. Where did we leave off? I believe I started telling you a bit more about our customs. You've heard the prince refer to our traditions. Chief among them is the Masquerade. As you might have gathered from us assembling at a niche gallery after closing time, our comings, goings, and doings tend to be somewhat secretive. We do not advertise our existence. We allow myths and modern fiction to morph and muddle the facts. So, to the vast majority of kin, we remain bedtime stories and pop culture icons. Say, is that one television show about a vampire angel still popular? You shake your head in confusion. She shrugs and continues talking, looking a little more dejected than before. Our clandestine ways help us maintain safe, allow us to explain away the occasional trip up to the rational minds of 21st century humanity, and dictate much of our interactions with mortals. What's the worst that could happen if you're a vampire? I'm sure you can defeat any threat that comes your way. It would surely make things easy if we could. Unfortunately for us, there are plenty of things that can harm us. Chief among them are sunlight and fire. Both will burn you to ash. That's why we rest during the day. You felt it, I'm sure. That it's more like being dead than being dormant. We have no choice. We are night dwellers, but day sleepers. Some more folk-related threats are just legends, or occasionally a minor nuisance. Garlic, running water, even religious symbols don't repel us, unless the wielder is uniquely pure and godly. Stakes through the heart, though, that's something to avoid. They do not necessarily destroy, or they do not destroy, but they do paralyze, which, under the right circumstance, can often be the same thing. There's a reason to have somebody like my trusted driver, Gregory, who can show you're safe when you drift away. We have many enemies, and they often know their advantage lies with daylight. The vampires watch each other's backs. You mentioned enemies. I guess that makes it necessary to watch each other's backs. Can you count on other vampires for that? She surprises you by letting out a soft chuckle before answering. No. Our little sex supplies social interactions aplenty, but it doesn't really encourage counting on someone. Support given in exchange for favors, yes, that's more like it. Long-term solidarity does occur in Camarilla, but we are a very politicized organization by necessity. Loyalty is your sire to your prince and to the sect. When you're in Elysium, like we were tonight, the sect can appear to be a monolith. The reality is more complex. Outside of official gatherings, shady deals, and a quid pro quo mentality reign supreme. She seems to be lost in thought and falls silent for a while, leaving you to ponder all the things you've learned tonight. It still feels absolutely unreal as piece after piece of knowledge falls into place. The image becomes almost like an entirely logical jigsaw puzzle. Whatever you wouldn't believe on your own, you've witnessed. Many questions swarm your thoughts, but the one you keep returning to is what your place in this new reality should be. The car stops. You're in the city, in front of an old but well-renowned apartment building. We're here. Would you like to see your lodgings? Is it another drab safe room in an underground parking lot? For my safety and all that? Don't be ridiculous. You're not a sireless fledgling in Cadilla's stern grasp anymore. And even he wouldn't hold you there any longer than necessary, I think. Come upstairs. She leads you through a small hall with a night guard who greets Miss Langley with a good evening, and you take the stairs up to the second floor. Sophie opens the door to room 209. Inside are all the amenities you could expect from a modern apartment, and some you wouldn't have deemed necessary just from the previous night, including thick blinds on the windows. The back room has a comfortable-looking bed and a thick steel door with several sturdy-looking locks, but no windows. Well, how do you like it? This is great, thank you. I'm glad. Make yourself at home. Tomorrow I will take you hunting and discuss the blood in more detail. I'll let you get comfortable. The keys are by the television set. I will come pick you up tomorrow night. Use the back room for your rest. You can lock the doors just in case. It stings a bit when she leaves. It's like the room suddenly became a few shades dimmer. You inspect the kitchen, hoping to find something to drink. Nothing. No regular food, either. It feels strange that Kadir could be a more thoughtful host than your new sire, even if only in that respect. You briefly wonder if the sheriff might have a hidden side. With nothing left to do, you lie on the couch with the TV playing in the background for company. Columbo reruns. Kojak reruns. President of the United States got himself into serious trouble again. President of the United States got himself out of trouble again. Pundits start yelling over each other about things that seemed a little bit less insignificant just 2 days ago. You start drifting off, reflecting about another night of confusion, or confusing conversations and worldview-shattering revelations. How many more before you finally understand what happened to you and what you're supposed to do now? You keep coming back to the life you left behind, the people you should contact, the things you want to pick up from your apartment. You wonder when you'll have the chance for either. As you start to feel the same tiredness that made you drift into a cold sleep last night, you settle in the back room. The bed is comforting, the lack of windows less so. You leave the light bulb on. Looking at it, you realize it's the closest you'll ever come to staring at the sun on a breezy summer day again. A wave of melancholy overwhelms you. A few minutes later, your conscience fades and you take the plunge into the darkness again. Sinking, 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 sinking. So sorry, I see. Hunger is at the heart of a vampire's existence. To ignore it is to tempt the beast to take over its desire to feed. To overindulge in feeding may threaten the masquerade while staining what humanity have left. In Coteries of New York, having high hunger is indicated by a progressively thicker body frame around the screen, like the one you see now. As your hunger grows, so does this indicator. Your hunger may increase when you call upon your vampiric powers, or when you need to mend your wounds after a fight. When your hunger reaches the maximum level, you will receive a warning after you complete a piece of the story. Ignore it at your own peril. Some choices might only become visible if your hunger is high enough. Similarly, high hunger may block off some choices, as you will be able to see after pressing continue. To decrease your hunger, you will need to feed. Whenever you see a feeding opportunity, you can take the risk to hunt and slake your hunger. You will need to keep the hunger at bay if you are to uphold the masquerade and survive the nights that await you. You open your eyes. Ah, my nose is getting stuffy. The bed isn't warm. The room is filled with artificial light from the ceiling. The solid metal door is closed. Normally you'd stretch for a bit. On some mornings you'd probably throw the quilt over yourself and snooze a moment longer. But that was before. The way you woke up now, you are fully conscious. No grogginess. Nothing weighing you down. Just the nagging need in the back of your head. Hunger. Not as severe as last time, but unmistakably there. You get up and open the door to the main room. A digital clock on the TV shows you the time, 9:04 p.m. You walk over to the blinds and retract them cautiously. The only light coming in is New York City's artificial nighttime luminescence. So that's what your waking hours are going to look like now. You miss the sunlight already. You're seriously considering just walking out of the apartment and figuring this all out by yourself, but then you come back to the memory of Kadir's exotic sword being raised in the gallery. Maybe sticking around isn't that bad of an idea after all. You keep jumping channels for around half an hour and then switch to streaming services, almost as if the universe had a sense of irony. You catch True Blood in the flood of recommendations. The doorbell rings. It's Sophie. Good evening, Eric. Slept well? Like a dead man. Like a dead man. Curious wording, but not that far from the truth, I suppose. No use dwelling on it. I think you'll agree with time. You made the right choice yesterday. I can teach you many things about yourself, your blood, its desires and its power. We will begin tonight. You are hungry, yes? I'm sure you are. Our kind always is. There is only one remedy, the blood. The drinks we had yesterday at Elysium are not the usual way you slake your thirst. So tonight I will assist you in your first foray into hunting. You need to learn to sense the kind of blood you desire, to understand how you can use the kin's vulnerabilities to your advantage. Well, I'm ready to learn. Let's get started. Such eagerness. Or is it just your hunger making you impatient? You'll find that drinking moderate amounts of it regularly will keep the hunger and the whispers of the beast away. You might think yourself monstrous, but there is a balance to be found here. The kiss gives the kin pleasure. You might remember this from your own embrace. Some can even become addicted to the sensation. But if you do it right, they tend to misremember your feeding. After all, vampires do not exist. They are myths, fairy tales, and pop culture mainstays. Correct? She gives you a sly, knowing smile. This is why the masquerade is so important, and even more crucial when you feed. How to avoid being seen? How do you avoid being seen while feeding? You isolate your prey, or you choose the right circumstances. People tend to avert their gaze when they see a couple intertwined in public. Love bites are easy to explain away. Some of us keep willing herds, or even just individual kin who desire the kiss. That comes at a higher risk these nights, though, so I would not recommend it to a young kindred like yourself. Feeding from the same area repeatedly can be dangerous, but by branching... Ugh. Throat's all sore. Boy, sorry about that. Feeding from the same area repeatedly can be dangerous, but by branching out you risk the ire of other kindred on whose domains you trespass. Lucky for you, New York City is more forgiving in this regard. New York is in somewhat of a unique position. Many of its neighborhoods remain contested or unclaimed. The reason for this is a lesson for another time, but keep the following in mind. Take opportunities to feed when they present themselves, these upcoming nights. As long as you hunt cautiously and respect the masquerade at all times, you should be fine. To wit, I want you to join me for a trip tonight. Come downstairs. Gregory is waiting for us. The busy streets fill the air with traffic noise, pedestrian chatter, and a mix of smells that disorient you momentarily. These warm bodies contain what you want, what you need. You catch yourself. Did you really just think of these people as mere sources of blood? It takes a nudge from Sophie to break your train of thought. Her driver opens the door for her, and then tips his hat to you, gesturing to the back of the car. The car usually joins the somewhat thin New York traffic. It's still busy in a way only one of the biggest cities in the world can be, but compared to the daytime commute, it's a pleasant drive. You barely have time to gather your thoughts and formulate new questions before the car comes to a stop. You're among the tall skyscrapers that make up Manhattan's iconic skyline. Come, Eric, park the car. Gregory, will you? The driver just nods and Sophie gets out. You join her, and the two of you walk through the glass doors together, then take the elevator up. You first notice an empty stage with the instruments of a string quartet still in the back, then take in a few dozen chairs in the front. The concert seeming concluded, the patrons, all smartly dressed and posh, has spread out all over the hall. Sophie strides confidently inside, produces an invitation from her purse that she flashes in front of a security guard. You follow close and are let through without issue. Let's start easy. A social setting like this one would usually prove quite challenging to an inexperienced kindred, but consider this evening a small gift from your patron. I am hoping to procure for you a willing vessel. Just remember what I told you about taking small sips. This one I have a soft spot for. Don't damage her. And then let's see. Ah, there he is. She notices somebody in the crowd, flashes a heart-melting smile, and suddenly even you feel drawn to her. You haven't thought about it before, but it's laid clear before you in this moment. Sophie is beautiful. Just looking at her is a privilege. Just being with her makes you feel elated. Everybody in the crowd, especially the man who's almost tripping over himself to reach her, clearly agrees. Edgar, I'm so happy to see you. How's your daughter? Is she with you? Ah, there she is. Julie, my girl, come over, please. There's somebody I'd like you to meet. The young woman who walks across the hall can't be more than 19 years old. It's clear from her mismatched earrings and the partially faded purple hair dye that she doesn't fit in this crowd. Julie, this is Eric. I think the two of you should get acquainted while I talk business with your dad. Awfully boring stuff, I assure you. I'm positive you'd like each other. The girl gives you a shy smile and nods towards the balcony stairs. You follow, somewhat unsure what it is exactly Sophie expects you to do. You reach a secluded space from which the entire lobby is visible. All eyes are on Sophie. They listen intently, then laugh when she does. Julie saves you the trouble of figuring out the next step. If you're with Sophie, then I guess you're, that you know. She puts her wrist to her lips and gives herself a theatrical nip, then looks to you, embarrassed, but also hopeful? Yes, I do. She takes off her jacket, unbuttons her sleeve, then rolls it up. You see a tattoo of a cat in an astronaut suit, one feline eye winking at you. There. Just enjoy. A perfectly awkward smile and a blush. Oh. You have a choice? Well, she's a willing participant, so... You take her forearm in your hands. A quick look around confirms nobody's watching and no security cameras cover this area. You back down gently. It's surreal. She's just given you her blood of her own volition. How is this possible? What about the masquerade? You need to ask Sophie. Your thoughts disappear amidst the bliss. There's just the taste. Sweet, fresh, sanguine. You drink. And drink. And drink. No, stop. You tear away from the girl harder than you wanted. Still, the bite leaves just tiny punctures. Almost as if by instinct you lick them clean. The two holes become concealed, just like that. Julie is now leaning on the wall, pale, wobbly on her feet, but happy? She lets out a dreamy sigh, opens her eyes. A few tears fall onto her shirt. Tears of joy. Thank you. Please, can you walk me downstairs? Please? My dad, he doesn't know. He thinks it's a condition. Miss Langley told him so. She leans on you and requests you walk her over to a bench. She takes a seat and smiles at you. The crowd around Sophie disperses slowly. Looking at her now, only some residual awe hangs in the air. Yes, she's pretty, maybe even beautiful, sure, but not your type. What came over you before? You walk over to her. Edgar, dear, it was splendid talking to you, but we need to get going. Give Julie my best wishes. Come with me. Come with, Eric. Gregory is waiting for you out front. It's only in the car that Sophie addresses you. I can tell from the look that you took the opportunity. Good for you. That girl's exquisite, don't you think? You wouldn't tell by her demeanor, but she has so much passion. It brings out a unique bouquet in her blood. I feel like I took advantage of her. This feels all wrong. I feel like I violated her, like I took advantage of her. Oh, please, spare me your dramatics. I'm sure she was happy sharing herself. She's such a sheltered girl. Let her have fun from time to time. Time for the next stop. Training wheels off this time. Gregory, Flushing Meadows, please. The driver takes the car over to Williamsburg Bridge. You settle your thoughts. Why Flushing Meadows? Flushing? What for? Other than the fact that the Unisphere is beautiful at this time of night, it's a great hunting ground on which to try out some of the talents of the blood. We all have our talents. Some of them come from the legacy we inherit from our sire. Others can be learned with experience. I can sway people or make them fear me. I see more of the world and in greater detail than some kindred. I can will my body to move with unparalleled precision and grace. And more. All of these skills make me who I am. They also help me hunt. How do I use my powers? How exactly do I use these talents? You will the blood to your bidding. Many times you'll find you do these things intuitively, almost passively, but making an entire room focus their attention on you? This is tempting the beast. Always keep the masquerade in mind, however. It is all fine if you can disappear in plain sight or command animals with your mind, but save those overt talents for the right place and time. It only takes you half an hour to reach the park at this time of night. Both you and Sophie leave the car, with Gregory left behind again to find a parking spot and keep an eye on the car. Sophie seems deep in thought. She takes in the surroundings with a dreamy gaze. The sky is surprisingly clear tonight, stars just barely visible in the light-blued aura of the city. I feel like having a snack myself. I'll be by the fountain. Go look for somebody to your liking. See what effects you can achieve with your blood, but only pick one victim. Just one. Then come back. Seeing how she seems not altogether here right now, you decide to leave Sophie to her own devices and seek out your prey. From here, it looks like you have a few choices. Just taking a stroll around the park and finding an isolated jogger or something like that could work, but focusing on one area might work better. The New York State Pavilion might work as a secluded spot. There's a skate park nearby, and worst case scenario, there's bound to be some unfortunate wino around. Or maybe the tennis courts nearby? There's light coming from there, so somebody might still be playing a late night match. They won't be alone, but they might be tired and let their guard down. As these scenarios played out in your mind, you realize you're planning how to assault a stranger in the middle of the night. It's a weird way to be, but the now familiar hunger prompts you to act. Okay, what do we got? Search a victim around the park. Hunt near the decrepit pavilion. Look for prey at the tennis court. Well, I don't want tennis courts. How about the pavilion? You make your way to one of the park's most well-known landmarks, the round skeleton of the New York State Pavilion, with its two vaguely futuristic-looking towers. You don't get lucky with the skate park. It's not deserted. Instead, a group of skaters is gathered there, talking loudly and listening to music playing out crackling smartphone speakers. Deciding to have a quick look around, you identify a potential victim, a sleeping bag lady, leaned back on a bench, a shopping cart full of what looks like trash nearby. One of these might be the right opportunity to take. Let's try presence. You think back to what Sophie did in the hall, how she managed to focus the attention of the entire gathering on her. That might be a tall order for you, but a single person could be doable. You single out a guy who's talking on his phone away from the gathering. He's having a heated discussion with somebody. A relative? A partner? It's not going well. This talk's over. I said shut the fuck up. Hey, you hearing me? Shut up. Call me when you get some fucking sense in your stupid brain, Kay? He ends the call abruptly and almost throws the phone to the ground in frustration. Rough night. He's got an angry expression on his face, tears welling in his eyes, but he gives you a curious look, and even a bit of a shy smile. Yeah, you could say that. What's up? Well, come closer, let's talk, or I got a cure for that downer. Yes, definitely not. I want to show you something. How about I got a cure for that downer? I got something that will put a smile on your face. He takes a few steps forward, away from his buddies, who remain totally oblivious to what's happening. But you see your influence fading. You take your chance and lunge. Oh, why would I do that? Your fangs sink into his exposed shoulder. He shivers and lets out a moan. His phone hits the pavement, and you hear the casing crack. His blood tastes like a clash of hot emotion and melancholy, laced with some artificial stimulant you can't quite place. An energy drink? A recreational drug? It's a strange mix. You hardly have the chance to savor it, as the proximity of the skater's friends make you feel vulnerable. You hastily finish drinking and drag the guy over to the pavilion. Well, I guess I shouldn't play this game at night. My voice and my mouth get too dry, I think. Maybe I'll do these in the mornings instead. I don't know. It seems like this is something that's more fun at night, though, right? I don't know. When you turn around, you realize you're not alone. A hooded man is looking menacingly at you. What do you think you're doing? Barging in on my turf like this, lick. Didn't mean to trespass, I'm gone. I didn't mean to trespass. Sorry, I'm going. Too late for that, friendo. You want to leave here in one piece, you talk. Candidly. I know what you are, so you can shove that masquerade misdirection up your ass. Now, better tell me who you're with before my posse shows up and we beat it out of you. You talk big, but I'm thinking you're just a chump. Want to prove me wrong? He tenses up, gives you an extremely nasty look, and bares his fangs. You want to push your luck, dumb fuck. My crew is in earshot, one shot away, and you're D-O-N-E. Done. Get what I'm saying? So if you want to dance, let's dance. Once I'm through, I'm going to hand you over to Callahan, and you're going to be sorry I didn't finish you off instead. celerity. Run back to Sophie fast. Call for help or attack. Why is this one special? I don't know. You take off fast. Faster than you've ever run. The hoodlum has trouble keeping up, but howls behind you like an animal and gives chase anyway. As you reach the Unisphere again, you slow down, noticing two people near the sculpture, a man and a woman, tangled in a passionate embrace. No, not exactly. It's Sophie, feeding. But this whole scene is set up so that it looks like a couple getting intimate in public. She pulls it off like she's done it 100 times before. It occurs to you that she probably has. The man is unsure on his feet as she lets go of him and leads him towards a nearby bench. Noticing you, she whispers something into his ear and leaves him. Her driver appears from behind a tree. Well, Eric, how did it go? You're about to answer when the same figure as before emerges from one of the alleys. He looks at the three of you, and a predatory smile creeps onto his lips. You thought you could run away from me, Lick? Think you'll be safe with your friends? Well, I have friends too. He makes a motion to shout, but two things happen almost at the same time. First, the feeling of warmth and beauty emanating from Sophie flares up again, entrancing both you and the hooded thug. His shouts come out as a weak, confused squeak. Second, Gregory produces a wooden stake from his holster under his jacket and slams it into the thug's chest. Just like that, in a few seconds, the posturing vampire is down on the ground, paralyzed. I see you've made a friend, Eric. Curious choice of company, I would say. Who is he? He mentioned a Callahan. He said something about presenting me to somebody named Callahan. Ever heard of him? She looks shocked for a split second, then recovers her regular countenance. Yes, I have. This hoodlum is Anarch, then. Curious. Corona Park has not been claimed by any kindred last I checked. Let's go to the car. We'll put him in the trunk and present him to Kadir tomorrow night. I'm sure he'll be delighted to make this unbound's acquaintance. Gregory carries this staked vampire and dumps him in the car's trunk like a mannequin. It's a strange sight, and you're quite happy you're not in that poor fucker's shoes right now. It's almost surprising that you can get away with just casually throwing a stiff into your car and driving away. But then you remember that Sophie has been doing this far longer than you have. Still, the nagging thought that anything you did tonight could have been recorded on a CCTV camera or picked up by a rando with a half-decent smartphone and streamed online fills you with dread. Hunting and using your abilities is the dangerous business. It's clear that this whole being a vampire thing has about as many caveats as it has perks. You're taken out of your headspace by Sophie's voice. I'll pick you up tomorrow night, same as tonight. I have some business to attend to at Elysium. I expect you to accompany me. Plus, our friend in the back needs to be properly introduced to Kadir and the prince. I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say to the court. Her voice is cold, cruel, and nothing like the enchanting personality she showed at the gallery earlier tonight. Sophie is clearly a woman of many faces. What's going to happen to him? And what's going to happen to him? The usual, I imagine. Interrogation by Kadir, probably in the basement of the gallery. A quick trial, and the prince in attendance, if she's there tomorrow night. A swift execution as the verdict. This all sounds eerily familiar to you, and you can't help but feel a pang of guilt when you think about what awaits this guy tomorrow night. You haven't told me how your hunting went. Getting the hang of it, I would hope? I'll need time to get used to this. It doesn't come naturally. It will with time. You need to think about it less. Hunting is the one scenario in which you'll do well to trust your instincts. In moderation, of course. She seems distracted, not all there. The thoughts drift, and the car remains silent until you reach your apartment. We will pick you up tomorrow evening. Good night. Just like that, without any further courtesy, Sophie leaves, driven to her apartment by Gregory with a body in the trunk, right in the middle of Manhattan. Did you cross paths with situations like these in the past unknowingly? What are the secrets that you pass on the streets without knowing their true nature? Your haven is just as you left it hours ago. Although the sun won't come up for some time, you feel tired. You learned something about yourself today, and it'll take time to process. You're not in the mood for television, and the few books on the shelves in the apartment are either in languages you don't speak or sound like a boring read. Nothing left to do but rest. You settle in the back room, lock the door. A moment of hesitation, but then a decision. This time you turn off the light. You think back to Julie. How many people in the city know about this vampiric society? How many are willing accomplices in sustaining it? And the thug you met in the park, if he's not Camarilla, then what is he? Are there independent vampires? How does that work? More questions. You begin wondering if there is ever going to be a night when you can start crossing them off the list instead of adding to it. You close your eyes. You sink into the now familiar void of nothingness. He greets you with open arms like an old friend. You open your eyes. It's pitch dark in here. It's pitch dark here. The blackness of a coffin drifting in the abyss. Oh, right, the light. You grasp for the light switch, flip it. The familiar cramped room with a steel door and no windows comes into view. You emerge from the bedroom fully awake, just like yesterday. This time, however, Sophie is waiting for you, comfortably seated on the sofa in your living room space, a book in her hand. The Melancholy of Resistance. The title sure on brand. Good evening, Eric. Sorry to kept you waiting. To be fair, I haven't been here long. I was enjoying reminiscing about the time when I called this my haven. The decor was much different, of course. Come, we have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on account of your unruly friend from Corona Park. This should be a great opportunity for you to mingle. She keeps talking as you walk downstairs and get in the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod and a small smile while opening the door for Sophie. He starts the car while you take your seat in the back. Most of the Primordian Council is bound to be there, at least those who usually attend. Probably some other important personalities you do well to at least learn about. How should I carry myself when I'm inside? You never told me if there's any savior vivre kind of rule, or savoir vivre kind of rules I should expect when talking to other vampires. Knowing that you're among your superiors is probably the most important. In our society, status comes with age. Pardon my sincerity, but you are insignificant. Not even associating with me can make the fact that you've been kindred for barely a few nights be forgotten. So know your place. Stay out of your superior's business, to show the utmost respect. Thanking the prince for sparing you, and maybe having a friendly chat with Kadir publicly might show your gratefulness for being part of the Camarilla now. I would suggest you make it sincere. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember what I told you about reflecting on me as your patron. I have a reputation to uphold in the court. Do not tarnish it. There it is. She might have saved you. She might be protecting and teaching you, but it's clear what she's really concerned about, her own interests. You step into the art hole with something of a bad memory. The last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down and your existence nearly ended. But tonight, there is very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look that's definitely intended to remind you of your place, but the prince, also in attendance, seems pleased to see you. Welcome, Sophie. Eric. Did I get that right? Good evening to both of you. I understand there is somebody else you wish to present to the court tonight. Yes, Prince. They will be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. It's better be worth the prince's time, Langley. The prince gives Kadir a cold glance. Forgive the sheriff's harshness. He's in a particularly foul mood tonight. Something to do with Eric's begetter eluding his grasp, I believe. Ouch, I must have hurt his ego, even if his only reply is a crooked smile. The mention of your sire makes you come back to all the talk of eschewing societal norms and disillusionment with the status quo you enjoyed back in the club. Look at you now, behaved, agreeable. She likely won't be too happy with this whole setup. Prince, court, hierarchy, titles. But hey, she's gone. Probably forever. If you ever break out of this, it'll be on your own. The flaring up of whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory enters the room, the jumpsuit-clad inert vampire still staked on his shoulder. The show is about to start. Sophie Driver places his charge in the middle of the room and nods respectfully to Kadir. The sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake from his chest. The captain's eyes flicker to life, and he starts looking around in disbelief. Like a cornered animal, he backs out on all fours, keeps going in circles until he realizes he's trapped. Kadir steps on the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why, who do we have here? Oh, fuck, oh shit, no. Come on, don't. Silence. The sheriff takes on an aura of utter dread. He appears as if he's a primal force of nature that's out to get you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do but shrivel in terror. The beast inside you shrieks, and you could swear it happens in unison with the instinct of some of the other guests here tonight. It's unlike anything you've experienced in his company during your turbulent first night as a vampire. he really did go easy on you, all things considered. It seems like it takes all the hoodlum's willpower not crawl into a fetal position to start crying. Oh, please, don't hurt me, man. Don't! You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs, at the prince's discretion. Please, go ahead, my sheriff. You heard the prince. Get up. Let's go. He doesn't wait for a confirmation. He just grabs the man and drags him, kicking and screaming, out of the room. Conversations start all around you, some whispered, some quite overt. Sophie looks somewhat bored of the whole affair, her eyes wandering from art piece to art piece, clearly finding nothing to her particular liking. For how cultured you all seem, torching somebody in an art gallery doesn't seem to faze you. Oh, please, do keep your nativity to yourself. Power and violence have always been two sides of the same coin. Most of us here are far too old to bother with keeping up appearances. Excuse me. Sophie leaves your side and goes to a corner of the gallery where a group of kindred, some seemingly pretty old-fashioned, gathered. The concierge offers you a drink, still warm. Smells nice. Just a sip to start you off, a splash over your palate, coating your tongue and the inside of your cheeks. Nourishment. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. The prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing here those few nights ago. She has a cold but noble countenance to her. Their conversation seems to be casual. A loud, shrill laugh turns your attention to the bespectacled man who you saw with Sophie on the night of your judgment. He's making the rounds, chatting up different patrons. You feel somebody's eyes on you. Casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column, watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you've noticed. The prince is talking. What time are we at here? Oh yeah, a couple minutes. Let's talk to the guy with the glasses. The man notices your attention, but it takes a few minutes before he pauses his mingling for long enough to actually approach him. He looks at you quizzically. Thomas Laturo. I wouldn't say any of this. I'd say, pleased to meet you, not pardon or who. Is that your name? I assumed you'd like to know. I know you. By name only, of course. Eric. Raised just a few nights ago, huh? Well, well, well. How's undeath treating you? It takes some getting used to, for sure. Oh, it sure does. Sure does. Good thing we have an eternity to make the best of it, right? He takes a moment to clean his glasses, completely ignoring you until he's done and puts them back on. I'm sorry, got a bit distracted. You know, most of us don't need to wear these, right? I can see just fine without them, but it's a statement. The damn things keep catching specks of dust and other assorted shit, though. Never stay clean for long. Sometimes I think they're more trouble than they're worth, wouldn't you say? Well, they look good on you, really. You bet they do. Alright, that was a nice chat, but I have to catch up with a few other fellows tonight. Talk to you later? Genie. Hey, Genie. He doesn't even give you a chance to say goodbye. He's already off grabbing 2 glasses of a concierge tray, and I don't know why that word bothers me. Concierge. I was like, I wish it was spelled differently. And handing one to a mustachioed man nearby. You notice Sophie mingling with other kindred, clearly in her element and not to be disturbed. Kadir hasn't come back yet, so you could probably find some time for at least one conversation. You gotta say thank you to the prince. You approach the prince, trying to say as respectful of her private conversation as possible. She glances at you as you step forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses the dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Excuse me for just a moment, Samira. Yes, Eric? What is it? I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realize it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. How thoughtful of you. She takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do it from the kindness of my unbeating heart. You're an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of the city that it was so, and there might be more to your future nights than just survival and servitude. The dark-skinned woman looks impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Forgive me, that's all the time I can spare right now. We have some things to discuss with with Samira still. Enjoy your night, Eric. Just bow and leave. You lead the two into their conversation, which they get back to almost immediately after the prince turns to Samira. A lot has changed, and the staircase grabs everybody's attention. Kadir is back, and the hoodlum is with him. The sheriff pushes the other vampires inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat is still inexplicably on his head, covering some of his ruined face and welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. His shin is broken, you think? Something protruding there, making the pant leg bulge. One arm seems twisted at a strange angle. Very little blood, surprisingly, but clearly a whole lot of hurt. Well, Kadir, did our guest cooperate? Tell the prince your name. It's Howard. And who do you run with, Howard? The Midnighters. An Anarch coterie, my prince. Active for some time now, though from what this one told me, the name is about the only legacy the group has kept over the years. I see. Hey, Prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I didn't... Loud crack makes some of the guests audibly gasp as Kadir dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract art piece on the floor. This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming a domain without the prince's approval. That alone would be enough to pass swift judgment, but he is also Anarch scum, my prince. There can only be one verdict. Final death. Do your duty, Sheriff. Unless, of course, somebody would like to play at being a good Samaritan like our dear Miss Langley a few nights ago. Look, the prince serves you and Sophie is a cruel jest. Sophie takes it gracefully, smiling, and slipping her arm under yours in a strange public show of affection. Nobody says anything. A vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. And try celerity, I guess? In a split second, you make your choice. Focusing your blood, you dash forward and grab Howard by the back of his jumpsuit, pulling him away from the window. You expect some resistance, but you find you don't have to worry about it when a swift cut separates Howard's head from his body. You let go and the headless corpse slumps to the ground. Kadir is standing between you and the window, his sword drawn, and an ugly smile on his face. Well, Eric, your eagerness is laudable, if unnecessary. That Howard fellow couldn't have hoped to escape his fate, not facing Kadir's expertise. However, I have made note of this show of loyalty on both you and your patrons' accounts. I'd like to thank Miss Langley for bringing this Anarch's thug to my Aunt Kadir's attention. I assume all have found the verdict satisfactory. It's a rhetorical question, and everybody here knows it. Then I consider tonight's meeting concluded. Good night to all of you. She steps out of the room, and you see that many of the guests move to do the same. Sophie seems to be conversing with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what had transpired. You probably have time to strike up a conversation of your own, too. Kadir Al-Samai is still here, for one, but clearly getting ready to leave. Arturo is still here, chatting with the remaining attendants. For a moment, you think the man who was looking at you earlier left, but he's still here, keeping to himself in a secluded corner. Kadir's busy. Let's talk to the weirdo. Or the more weirdo. The plain-looking guy from before is clearly uncomfortable here and is ready to leave. You approach him as he is making his way to the stairs. Good evening, Mr. Larson. Or you can call me Robert. Either is fine. Why are you standing here alone like this? Why are you standing around by yourself like this? I'm not hugely liked around these parts. I'm surprised you wanted to talk to me. And again, you're new, so you probably don't know. I'm one of Prince Panhard's primogen. I'm usually here to advise the prince, but clearly that wasn't necessary, so I guess I'm not entirely sure why I came here tonight. What about you, though? How does it feel to have a hand in the same kind of business that could have ended in your final death? No, wait. That's unfair. I forgot how new you are to all this. I'm not sure if you were paying attention the other night, but when the prince mentioned diverging opinions on whether you should be executed or not, that was me. I was the diverging opinion. Not that I'm ungrateful, but out of curiosity, what was your reasoning? My reasoning? Just common sense. that you shouldn't be blamed for being assaulted and essentially murdered to boot. But as Kadir loves to say, the traditions are clear. Listen, I don't want to be rude and I appreciate you reaching out, but word of advice, stay away from me. Many vampires in this sect regard my position as primogen to be some kind of a joke, you know? You talk to me, they'll notice, and they'll hold it against you. You have a quick look behind you and see that a few of the kindred keep shooting you curious glances. One woman in particular, a redhead boasting a fanciful hairstyle, watches you disapprovingly. Some of them already do, I imagine. Listen, I need to go. Enjoy your night and all that. With just a single look and at the rest of the thinning crowd, he leaves the gallery. It's right about when Sophie also ends her conversation and walks over to you. Interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Breaker is waiting downstairs. She seems preoccupied with something and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time you arrive at another building just 2 streets across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs through a very nice lobby and a luxurious-looking hall into her domain. Please, have a seat. I shall be right with you. You take in your surroundings. The apartment is like a gallery, an old-school smoking room that you've seen in some period piece once, and a nouveau richest living room, meticulously combined together. Apologies. Old habits die hard. Clearly some stick with you even after your death. She drags down her cigarette and breathes out. Breathes? How's she doing that? Can you do that? Oh yes, you might not know. It takes some practice, but you can keep smoking if you like. Other things too. Experiment. You might surprise yourself. But I did not bring you here to show off. This is where I rest these nights. That door in the back? The bedroom. Similar to yours. I have servants and bodyguards in addition, of course. I brought you here because I need you to trust me. When I told you before that I needed your best behavior to uphold my good standing with the court, I meant it. But that's not the whole story. I have your interest in mind too. That's why I've given you your own haven, while I'm trying to teach you how to navigate this new reality. But you need to trust me, or else this won't work. You can come here whenever you feel like asking me something, when you're in trouble too, though I hope that won't happen often. I'll ask you to come here when you wake up tomorrow. I'll have something to discuss with you. Okay, I'll come over first thing tomorrow night. I appreciate that. That's silence again. There's definitely something on Sophie's mind tonight, but she doesn't seem eager to share it with you just yet. I'm leaving for another visit. Come downstairs with me. We'll give you a lift. A quick trip, a promise that you'll show up tomorrow, and some polite goodbyes later, you open the door to your haven and gather your thoughts. It's exciting in a way, being dragged deeper and deeper into this secret society and its rules. Whatever Sophie has planned for you, it's bound to teach you more about this thing you have become. You sink into your vampiric sleep with just a sliver of hope. It's a welcome change. Alright, why don't we stop it there? This is audap. You've been watching Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York on Nintendo Switch. This is very, very well written. So, I'm now a really big fan. I hope. I mean, I probably won't ever play the board game. I won't go that far. But if they bring out more of these sort of this choose your own adventure visual novels, I'm on board. I mean, I really like the follow up expansion, the Shadows of New York. I thought that was really well written too. So yeah, I hope to go through all these stories. I don't think I'll do a complete run, doing every single choice and every single ending, but I'll certainly do at least one run of all the characters, unless you guys want to see like a complete path run. I can do that if you like. But yeah, I'd say that if you're curious about this, it really is a well-written, well-paced, well-done visual novel. You know, the illustrations are really good. I think really only the music's just kind of nonsensical. I mean, it's there. It does something sometimes. It makes you aware of itself, but really nothing too terribly special. But it's not annoying at the same time, so not too bad. Yeah, but anyway, I look forward to playing the rest of this, and hopefully you guys do too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.